Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back to Bluegrass Jam Along. This is your Bluegrass Briefing for April 2026. And to give you a quick recap of what's been on the podcast recently, the last episode out was with Bill Nowlin, one of the founders of Rounder Records and also Down the Road Records. Had a really fascinating chat with him about kind of 50 plus years of involvement of putting out acoustic roots and string band music. So many things in there, so many fascinating things. What a journey they've been on. We chatted a bit about the history of Rounder, kind of how they got going, talked a bit about how Alison Krauss and the huge success she had was a big part of that story and how they dealt with that, but just so many fascinating insights and bits in there. Really, really cool conversation. Also had a great chat with Brad Kolodner, clawhammer banjo player, also a director of IBMA and an organizer of music in and around the Baltimore area too. Fascinating, really like Brad's playing, and I really enjoyed that chat. Check them out, they're both on the podcast. Coming up, I've got a conversation with great flat picker called Alex Graff, who, if you're all over the social channels, you've probably seen him quite a lot. He's all over Instagram, TikTok, giving people tips on how to flat pick. He's a really cool player, really nice guy. I spent some time with him out at IBMA a couple of years ago and got to know him a bit, and just he sent an email about a particular record saying, this record changed my life, and I said to him, do you want to come on the podcast to chat about it? And that record is Tony Rice's Manzanita, and it's very much kind of a personal chat about what that record means to him. It's not kind of a deep dive on the history or the facts of Manzanita, but it's just how that shaped the way he sees flat picking, and that was really fun, really interesting conversation. That's coming out next week. Next week I'm also heading down to Sore Fingers Bluegrass Camp over here in the UK to chat to some of the tutors over there and some of the students, and I'll bring you a little bit of a roundup of that in a couple of weeks as well. All sorts of things going on. Also, I conducted a poll across all my social channels and various like Facebook and Reddit groups and things to find out what people's favourite Tony Rice records were. And I set three categories. One was Tony's albums, so like Tony Rice Unit, things where he's a named performer like Skaggs Rice and records like Tone Poems and stuff. And then things that feature Tony, but he's not kind of named as part of the act, if that makes sense. So Bluegrass Album Band, J.D. Crowe in the New South, other things he's played on. I had 400 responses to that, and I've been totting them all up. And I'm going to put something out, so keep your eyes peeled for that, because it's just fascinating to hear what people's favourite Tony records are. So many things got a mention in the end. I'm going to put that. I'll put an episode of the podcast out, a little short one about that as well. So keep your eyes and your ears peeled. That is it. Let's crack on with the content for this one. All the usual stuff applies. If you want any info on Bluegrass Jam Along, come to bluegrassjamalong.com. Links to all the social channels, complete list of all the episodes, 500 plus, so you may well have missed some stuff. I can't imagine anybody's listened to all of them. But yeah, it's all there. Here comes this week's roundup of news, releases and announcements. And the first thing, the news and announcements section we call Church Street News. I wanted to just say something about Ronnie Bowman. I know a lot of you who listen, and a lot of the people who've been on this podcast are friends, fans, colleagues, peers of Ronnie, and just the kind of shock that everybody expressed when Ronnie died suddenly in a motorcycle crash recently. And I wanted to say something because I didn't know Ronnie, I'd never met him, I haven't spoken to him, but so many of you did, and just the wonderful kind of messages and all the sentiment about how much he meant to everybody was like wonderful to see. Horrific circumstances, and my sympathies and my thoughts go out to everybody who knew Ronnie, but at the same time as that, it is glorious to see somebody so celebrated when that kind of thing happens. And yeah, just send it out good thoughts and good wishes to all of you, from friends and family through to fans and people who've just loved Ronnie's music over the years. He's made a huge contribution to this music, and I know he will be very, very missed by a lot of people. Just wanted to say something about that. Moving on to more general news. One album that is on the horizon in a couple of months. Opera singer Renee Fleming has done a record with Bela Fleck, kind of celebrating Appalachian music. It's called The Fiddle and the Drum, and it's a collaboration with Bela, but features people like Sam Bush, Jerry Douglas, Sierra Hull, Sarah Jarosz, Aoife O'Donovan, Dolly Parton's on there, Vince Gill's on there. I've had a bit of an advanced listen to that, and it's a really interesting record. Renee's been doing various things in recent years to kind of cross over a bit between the classical world and kind of the more kind of mainstream pop and acoustic world, I guess. And this is very much not one of those crossover things that's just kind of about marketing. It's a genuine attempt to do something interesting, and it is fascinating. So that's coming out in a while. I'll let you know a bit more about that when it comes close, but I just wanted to flag that one because that's full of people I enjoy, and those kind of collaborations are always really interesting. So that's the news. We're going to move on to The Grass is New, which is the new releases. And the first release is Renee Fleming and Bela Fleck, In the Pines, featuring Dolly Parton, which comes from the album Fiddle and Drum, which is due in a couple of months. The single is out now. Go and have a listen to that. There's a new acoustic Oasis release, which is David Grisman's label. And it's an album of Del McCoury Band with Peter Rowan and David Grisman, called the Bluegrass Summit. And it was recorded in 2000. It's 31 tracks. And it's basically a set of Del and the band in kind of full throttle mode. Brilliant stuff. But also a whole bunch of tracks that include Peter and David as well. Really interesting. I'll stick a link in the show notes where you can go and get that. It's a digital download. Really cool. Go and have a listen to that. There's also a new single from the Del McCoury Band called Long Way Round, which is out now as well. So there's the Del album with Peter and Grisman from 2000, and also the new Del McCoury Band single, Long Way Round. Volume 2 of Earl Jam, Tony Trishka's wonderful project based around a bunch of stuff he was sent on a thumb drive, which is John Hartford and Earl Scruggs kind of just jamming at home. Volume 1 came out a couple of years ago. I interviewed Tony about that. If you want to hear the full story of how that went, I'll stick a link in the show notes and you can go listen to that, because it's a fascinating project, and Tony's just a wonderful person to chat to about music in all forms. But Volume 2 is out now, which features Billy Strings, Molly Tuttle, Ronnie McCoury's on there, Sam Bush, Sierra Farrell, lots of cool stuff. If that is anywhere near as good as Volume 1, that'll be the top of my playlist for some time to come. Go and have a listen to that. There's a new record by Michael Daves and Jacob Jolliffe called We Like Jim and Jesse, which is a duo album, as you would imagine, sort of paying homage to Jim and Jesse and the Virginia Boys. I'll stick a link to that on Bandcamp. Really cool. Michael Daves and Chris Thile did a duet record decade or so ago now, which is one of my favourites. I love it. I love the kind of energy Michael brings to stuff like that. He's got such an ability to kind of sound like he's playing now, but also in the 40s or the 50s. It's a really cool thing that Michael does, and I love Jacob. Jacob's great. So very much looking forward to digging into that and hearing some of that. That is the Michael Daves and Jacob Jolliffe record, We Like Jim and Jesse. And also something called Live at ETSU, East Tennessee State University, which is a Blue Highway record. It's a 30-year retrospective. They did an event, and they're putting an album out of it on Down the Road Records. So Blue Highway Live at East Tennessee State University. Have a listen to that. And finally, a new album from Jesse Appleman, mandolin player, called Where We Go. I haven't had a listen to this yet. It came out, I think, a month or so ago, and I missed it. And so I'm going to go back and have a listen to that. But yeah, that should be interesting. Go and have a listen to Jesse as well. So you'll round up. There's the single from Renee Fleming and Bela Fleck with Dolly Parton. Del McCoury with Peter Rowan and David Grisman from 2000 on Acoustic Oasis. New Del McCoury Band single. Tony Trishka's Earl Jam 2. The Michael Daves and Jacob Jolliffe Jim and Jesse album. Blue Highway Live, and Jesse Appleman. Lots of cool stuff in there. Go and have a listen to some of that. I'll stick links in the show notes so you can go and find things. Which leads me on to Scroll on Buddy, which is just something that I've spotted on the social channels. And this month's thing, James Key announced on his social channels that he is leaving Eastern Ash Grass. So I just wanted to say something about that because they've been one of my favourite bands the past few years. I love the sound they make. They've got such a cool, unique groove and such a great mix of instrumental and vocal voices between them. It's a really cool band, and I've really enjoyed their last couple of records. And I'm sure they will continue to be awesome without him, and I'm sure he will continue to be involved with them in some way. But just wanted to say all the best to James for what happens next, whatever he's up to. And thank you for some glorious music. And looking forward to hearing what Eastern Ash Grass come up with next. So I just wanted to say something about that. In my ears this week, final bit. Tom Yutz, who was on the podcast a couple of years ago with Martin Simpson talking about their wonderful record, Nothing But Green Willow, which is a collection of reimaginings of songs that Cecil Sharp collected in Appalachia in the early part of the 20th century. That was a wonderful album. I'll stick a link in the show notes to that as well if you missed that episode, because that was really cool. But Tom is putting out a new record called Ring a Bellin', which is not only a fantastic record, but it's also a really interesting project. It comes with a kind of a hardback book that explains a bit of his songwriting process and his approach to music and the inspiration behind the songs and all sorts of fascinating stuff. And I'm just starting to dig into it now. I'm really enjoying that. I'll update you when the actual album is out because it's not out yet, but I've been really enjoying that. I'm going to talk to Tom about that for the podcast, and that'll be out in a couple of weeks. So look forward to that. Tom's just, a great musician, great songwriter, and really interesting kind of interview subject as well. Really thinks about music. I'm looking forward to talking about that one. That is it. That is the Bluegrass Briefing for April. As I said at the beginning, all the usual stuff. Come and find me on bluegrassjamalong.com. Come and check out any episodes you might have missed. Links in the show notes to all the stuff we've discussed if you want to go and find any of it. But that is it. Have a great week. I'll see you with a new interview episode next week. Have fun and happy picking. Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas.